utensil, you can use a coaster, you can use anything, or if you have a compass, anything that is small, circular in shape, that will be sufficient. So what we will do is we will start with one basic piece of Madhubani. In the due process, I will tell you the background, I'll tell you what you are doing, why you are doing this, and a lot more, so that even after the workshop, you'll be able to do some small pieces on your own. All right. Rashi, if we could change the spotlight now, we can get started.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I'll just do that.
So we will start with making one circle anywhere on your paper. The circle that you are going to make is basically one small space inside which your painting is going to be. Why are we doing that thing? Is because in Madhubani painting, we don't leave empty spaces. This is one feature of Madhubani painting. We don't leave empty spaces. So we fill the empty spaces by one of the three things, either by patterns or by color or by motif. Motif refers to small designs placed properly. Rashi, it's not done, I guess.
Ma'am, if you can, turn on the camera and I can spotlight it.
Are you able to see now?
Just a second, I'll check and I'll do the spotlight thing.
Okay.
No, we are not able to see the workspace.
Not able to see. This shows to me, Rashi, not sure what the problem is.
I guess with the cam is not on.
It is
everyone. Yeah, it is now visible. So I guess everyone is able to see the workspace now. If you all can quickly respond me with a yes in the chat box, I've already spotlighted it and I hope everyone is able to see it. Yes,
perfect. Thank you so
visible.
much. So we will first start with just making one circle. Any size circle, small one is fine. Usually in Madhubani painting, we don't leave empty spaces, which is why we have defined the area so that it is clear to us that inside this thing, we are going to make our designs and patterns. Okay. Once your circle is made, then we are going to make Matsya here. Rashi, if you could just confirm whether my screen is visible, not visible. Is the video working fine?
Ma'am, I can see the video thing, but I guess there is some issue with the network. If you can switch it.
Okay, let me just check. One second.
So yes, Sujata ma'am, we are looking to it and it will be get fixed in another 1 minute. If we all can wait for just 1 more minute, 1 or 2 minutes.
Ma'am, can we do it along with you?
Yes, definitely, Soumya ma'am, you can do it along.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm on it, Rashi. Just, I think it will take another 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, sure.
Should be a little better now. Is it?
Ma'am, for me, it is stuck. And I guess for everyone it is. Are you all able to see it? If everyone can confirm me here in the chat box.
It's stuck actually. I'll blur also.
All right. Allow me 1 more minute then. Let me change the.
Yeah, it's clear now, ma'am, for now. I hope it's visible to everyone now.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So this is our area inside which our work would be. And whenever required, I'll zoom in a little more so that it becomes clearer to you. Don't worry about that part. Rashi, if you could see once again. So inside this, we are going to make Matsya. What does that mean? Matsya refers to fish. Why fish? because we are going to make a painting which is more like, the onset of something. Matsya basically is an auspicious element that shows that there is an onset of a journey which is on auspicious lines. A new beginning for us, something which is new, something which says that, okay, this is auspicious for all of us. This is a fish that we have made, a basic fish. Mouth, body, narrow part where the tail begins, and the tail. In Madhubani painting, instead of one line, we make double lines. You can use any pen for today. Any quality of pen is okay. I will write it down in the chat box towards the end of the session. What should be the starting stationery for you? Once you have finished one line, Rashi, I think there is some problem happening. The spotlight is getting changed.
No, ma'am, we are fixed on one thing only.
Okay.
I'll just check for once again. Yeah, so the spotlight is fixed, ma'am.
Okay. Some screen sharing was getting started now and then.
Ma'am, do we have to trace the same line, or are we supposed to draw a line next to it?
No, we are tracing the same line right now. I'll tell you what to do next.
Okay.
Instead of one line, we use two lines in Madhubani painting. What does that mean? It means that if it were a regular art, you would have made something like this. In Madhubani painting, we place two lines very close to each other. Instead of one line, we make two lines. So if you are making patterns, then also you would need double line. If you're making something freehand, then also you would need double line. So for everything, instead of one line, we make double lines. Okay. This is something which is a very typical feature of Madhubani painting. You will find this across every painting. So we are going to do the same thing here also, double line. Now, the closer the lines are to each other, the finer is the quality of your work. We should go slow with our work so that the double line also remains almost consistent at all places. Why do we make double line in Madhubani painting? In order to answer this question, you should know the background of Madhubani painting. Okay. In the meantime, just make one more line, which is outside the circle that you have already made. Madhubani painting is believed to have originated in Mithilanchal, and it is believed to have originated when Ram and Sita were getting married. So during this wedding, Sita's father said that I want my entire kingdom to be painted. And this painting, this form of painting should be such that every ritual, mythology, belief system, faith, marriage celebration, our rituals, all of these things find a place in the painting, which is why Madhubani painting is quite related to the very origin. So when you paint something in Madhubani style, you paint everything which is related to the origin of the painting itself. You paint things related to Ram Sita, Krishna Radha. You paint things related to Shiva and Parvati, auspicious elements, nature altogether, rituals, various kinds of cultural activities, life in the countryside. All of these things find their place in Madhubani painting. And that is because of the origin of the painting itself. And people, if you all face any problem in between, feel free to ask your questions. Feel free to drop it in the chat box. I would be more than happy to answer all your questions. Once you have decided on what basic subject you want to paint on, we start dividing it into smaller pieces so that we can make patterns inside. Like on the tail side, I divided it into smaller parts. Here also, I'll divide it so that we can place our patterns and designs inside. That is what we are doing right now. So while I was telling you about the origin of the painting, I was mentioning you about Shiv, Parvati, Ram and Sita, etc. Right? And we also talked about the fact that everything here in Madhubani painting will be drawn as if it is true to the origin of the painting itself, which means the double line that we paint in Madhubani painting should also be in line with the very beginning itself, with the origin itself, right? So I want to hear from all of you, what do you think would be the meaning of the double line that we use in Madhubani painting? You can use the chat box and answer your question and answer whatever you think would be correct. Use the chat box and answer there. What do you think is the meaning of the double line, or why do we draw double line in Madhubani painting? Raki, I was asking the question, why do you think we draw double line in Madhubani painting? To support the origin? Yes, Kabi, definitely. However, when we say to support the origin, what is the origin? The origin is about marriage and, the union. So the double line that we draw is symbolic of Shiv and Shakti, which is why this thing will always be an integral part of your painting. Okay. We will now break it into smaller parts further. And further divide this. Symmetry is something that we really give a lot of value to in Madhubani painting. And we don't use tools here. If we were to make a painting which is square based or rectangle based or triangle based or anything else, we don't use tools here. So we do it all by freehand, which means it will have that rawness associated to it. And it's completely okay for us to have that rawness. Breaking it a little more. Okay. Now in this part, since we have a very big space here, in this part, I'm going to draw one small fish once again. What did we do? From one corner to the other corner. The face, the body, the tail, and extension. And I would need everybody's attention here for a few seconds. Face, body, narrow part of the tail, and the tail. And on the lower side, okay. Do a double line here also. Now we have this one question, very, common, and it very, regularly crops up, that is this the only way in which a fish can be made? Is this the only way in which a certain thing can be done? The answer is, there is no one way of doing it. There are multiple ways of doing it. The only thing is, whatever you are doing has to have a certain specific characteristics associated, like double line, no shadow work, no three-dimension work, which means absolutely two-dimensional work, oversimplification of designs, thinking as if a child's, you are painting a child's perspective of things. So no three-dimension involved here, very simple work. The next one would be over dramatization. Since you are oversimplifying the things, Unless you dramatize it or unless you add a lot of flavor here, it is going to look very, very plain, which is why we add lots of drama or flavor in the work. Eyes, double line. For the mouth, I'm going to make it a little dramatic because if we make it plain, it's going to be a little boring. So curve and this. Start, curve, and this. Do we only draw auspicious things and gods and goddesses in Madhubani? No, we don't. We draw everything that is related to the origin, which means we draw things which are related to marriages, related to life, related to celebration, related to any cultural activity, related to nature, related to the life in the countryside. So all of these things find their place. It doesn't mean that it has to be related to gods, goddesses only. No, that is a misconception that we have. Even if I want to make a scene where women are there in the garden and talking to each other, there are lots of birds, etc. There, it's absolutely okay for us to draw this in Madhubani style. Since we have empty space here in this part, we are going to use this part also. There is one message about repetition in the chat box. I'll try to repeat whatever we have done so far towards the end, so that the class also continues and those who joined late will be able to understand what we discussed. And a small one here too. This is a typical flower in Madhubani style. We conventionally use this flower quite a lot. When Madhubani painting was started to be done, it was initially done by women in the countryside, women in the villages. And during the process of evolution of this, no, the number of petals is not always 4. The number of petals can be 5, it can be 7, it can be 9, it can be anything. 3 is not what we take. 3 is considered inauspicious here in Mithilanchal, so we don't take 3, but other than that, we can take any. If you want your painting to be a little more meaningful, then we take 5 petals. 5 petals, because 5 petals is more about the Panchdeep that we refer to. If you want it to be even more meaningful, you can make it 9 petals. 9 petals is Navdeep that we are referring to. You don't have to make all these lata here in this manner only. You can make in any manner here in this area. This is called lata. These are just the vines that you are drawing. We will break down this also into smaller parts. Not too much of work here, because then it will look overcrowded. Feel free to drop your questions. Thank you. Okay. So I was talking about the fact that it was carried out by women in the countryside. I was mentioning that because the patterns that we use in Madhubani painting are, inspired by the basic geometric shapes like lines, dots, triangle, circle, square, broken lines, leher. These are the ones that we use for pattern making purposes. And we are going to do the same thing here also. I want you all to notice we have just used lines and semicircles in entire thing till now. Lines, semicircles, and petals in the entire thing till now. Deepya, I'll respond to that question in just a short while. So, mention this point in a rough sheet. Dot, line in any direction, hatches, slant or horizontal and vertical, circle, triangle, jewel, 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 right? Then you use spirals, leher. All of these things that you use for pattern making purposes, they are called kachni. And this is what we are going to use for our pattern making purpose also. Keep this beside you, and we are going to use the same things in our pattern here also. Rashi, if you could just help me with the last question that had come up. It was Deepya's question. I couldn't read that.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am, can you show?
So the question says, is there a typical reason why Madhubani art caught your attention specifically?
I was born and brought up in Bihar, so I was fortunate to have learned this from my family itself, and which is why Madhubani painting basically. And since I started learning this from my family, it kind of deserved way more attention than what we have otherwise initially given it. And in the due course of time, it gained that popularity so much that it is one, extremely lucrative art form. Number two, it is very, very expressive in its form. We have been, looking at it from a very limited viewpoint that this is something about gods, this is about mythology. No, it is a surreal art form altogether. A very, very expressive art form. And number three, it is something that, a lot of people have said the same thing, that it is something that helps them stay connected to their roots. And which is why they want their children or they want their friends to learn this art form. And even this holds true for me also. I feel very connected to my native land whenever I'm painting this art form. Why are we breaking it down into smaller sections? So that it gives more clarity. And since it is only two-dimensional, these are the few ways in which you will be able to add more beauty to your work. If you want, you can also further add double line here too, but otherwise it was still fine because you had already made the lata with 2 lines only. Is it mandatory that you have to make double lines everywhere? I will not say that everywhere, but you should try to make it as much as possible because it becomes more of this art form than anything else. If we take away double lines from it, it is more like taking away the essence from it. So the more you include the typical features of this art form, the better is the quality of your work. In this part, since it is very small, I have just made 2 leaves. And do Kachni here. What is Kachni? I was just telling you about the patterns that we use in Madhubani painting. And one pattern that I used was line. Using lines for pattern making purposes in Madhubani painting is the first thing that we do when we are talking about Kachni. And how do you use lines? As close to each other as possible, equal distance between them, parallel lines. The neater this section is, the better is the quality of your work. Rupa, I'll share about those things in the chat box itself once we have completed. There is a concept of alternate designs or grouping designs in Madhubani painting, which means one Kachni, another one something else. Again, repeat. Kachni, something else. Kachni and something else. So if you see, we are creating alternate pattern here. Right? And we will do the same thing here also. These are the few things which make your painting very conventional or true to Madhubani. Alternate. Don't change the direction or the distance between your Kachni abruptly. That will spoil your painting. Should we make double line here also in the hatch? It's okay for you not to. The reason is that this is just a deviation that you have created. You have made the eyes also. Let's do Kachni here in this part also. How would you do that? For circular shapes, first divide it into equal parts so that your angle and direction remains same and you struggle a little less. So first divide, and in the space, do whatever you want. If you are able to pull off without this also, very good. But for those not from art background, this is a good way of keeping the direction similar. Darkening this a little bit, just for finishing. Eyes. Kachni inside the double line. No, we can't use scales for Madhubani painting. You can use any medium of coloring today. If you have color pencil, brush pen, acrylic paint, anything that you have, sketch pen, anything that you have, you can use today. I want you all to notice, however, how we are working on colors. I'm going to use acrylic paint. Not too much of coloring, little, but you should still be seeing this. Rashi, we have questions related to the recording. I'm not sure.
So Neha ma'am, I cannot promise you that we do have a recording, but you can definitely after the class check it in the bit class app, not for the demo workshops.
What is the color palette in Madhubani painting? What color should we choose for what? In Mithila painting or Madhubani painting, we use the color palette, which will be very much, no, not watercolor, Pragya, except watercolor, whatever else you want to use, you can. Watercolor, no, because it cannot be tamed as, because there is a lot of intricacy involved in Madhubani painting. Watercolor cannot be used. So depending on the scene that you are making, plus depending on the background color that you have chosen, or depending on the subject that you are painting, you can decide the color palette. However, The basic color palette that we use for Madhubani painting is red, yellow, green, and blue, along with pink and orange whenever you think you would want a little bit of flavor compared to whatever you are already doing. Maybe you find it repetitive, so you would want something extra. So along with pink and orange, and brown whenever required, like for the branches, the soil, the ground, etc. For these cases, you can use brown. So you use red, yellow, green, blue, pink, orange, and brown in majority of the cases. Which means the color palette that you choose should look as if it is a very conventional painting, a traditional work. It shouldn't be something where you have used any contemporary color. Like teal, for example, or mustard, for example. These are contemporary colors. We don't use them for a traditional painting, like Madhubani painting. Maybe we do that for rest of the art forms or other folk art also, but for Madhubani, no, we don't. It should give you the vibe of countryside.
Which color, ma'am?
The color palette. The color palette as in, entire set of colors that you use in Madhubani painting. It should be as if when you look at it, it gives you a vibe of the village side area, the countryside. So it shouldn't be something which is very modern or contemporary. I gave an example of teal and mustard. These are not conventional colors, so we will not use them in Madhubani painting also, like metallic colors. Our painting can be as intricate as we want or as colorful as we want. Usually in Mithila painting, we try to keep it very vibrant. I'm breaking this down a little.
एरी चुतरनी राशि बहुत गाली रहती है तो टट्टी सी शकल की लेंड खानी डेली डेली गाली रहती है का कह रही थी कल साले हैं चूतर खानी टट्टी खा ले मेरी भर भर के लोट चूतर सी शकल की पाद पी ले मेरा भर भर के लेंड सी शकल की चूतरनी टट्टी खा मेरी भर भर के चूतर खानी पाद
Can
पी
you move this, Rashi?
I'm so sorry for the disturbance caused. They've removed this guy. He's entering into every single meeting and he abuses like this. So I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. I've removed this guy.
Don't worry, it keeps happening. It's okay. So here we have so far used red color. Let us see till what extent we can use this color. And the next color that we are going to use will be orange. Basically, we will try to keep it as colorful as possible. Is it necessary that you color every small section of this painting? No. We can use colors. We can keep a few sections empty. We can, keep a few sections filled by adding patterns. All of this is completely okay. It really depends on your choice on what kind of look and feel you want in your painting. All right. Anyone, any questions that you have? Rashi, have you been able to answer all the questions in the chat box, or is there anything that is missed out?
Yes, ma'am. So far we have covered up. It's just that people who have joined in late, they're requesting if we can go ahead for one recap.
I will do that in some time.
And a question from Rupa says, I see most pattern used are fish, woman, etc. What's the story behind the same? Also, what's the painting origin?
First, not all paintings are based on fish and women. And second thing is, since what you are doing, it is something, around the origin of the painting, or around the origin of the art form itself, which is why whatever you see in this painting would be in line, and which means that fish is something which is extremely auspicious in our culture. In Mithilanchal culture, fish is considered as something very, very auspicious, way more auspicious than rest of the elements that we use, which is why this is going to be there in your painting in one way or the other quite a lot. It's quite preferred to keep these paintings. If, say, for example, if you want to keep a painting in your living room, it should be something that gives you positivity and faith that, okay, things are fine, and it's giving you a good impression. It's giving you faith in everything. So in order to ensure that that is the case, we do use fishes in a lot of paintings. Number one. Number two, why women? So the painting itself originated around women, right? Around Sita as the core, because in Mithilanchal, Sita is believed to be the daughter of that area, the daughter of the kingdom, which is why a lot of paintings will revolve around women, or around friendship among women, or their lives, or their, their a connection or a relationship or a bond sort of, and which is why a lot of paintings will revolve around womanhood. Similarly, it is also believed that this painting was initially done by Parvati. Now, Parvati being a woman herself, a lot of viewpoints is from a woman's perspective. And which is the reason you would notice that a lot of paintings, in order to just, sum up your answer, a lot of paintings will have the influence of women and the influence of fishes in them, in any form, but they will usually have. I hope I was able to answer your question. Any other questions, anyone? Okay. Here also we have used alternate color and pattern base. I'm quickly going to use green color now. Overall, Madhubani painting is divided into 5 broad categories. These 5 broad categories or segregations are Kachni, Bharni, Godana, Tantrik, and Kohbar. Kachni, Bharni, Godana, Tantrik, Kohbar. Kachni, which is primarily based on patterns. Bharni, which is primarily based on filling colors, vibrant colors. Godna, which is based on tattoo making. So it initially started on this line, started on the lines of tattoo making. Tantric, on the extreme side of our faith and ritualistic practices. For example, Kali painting. And Kohbar. Kohbar is more of a ritual where the walls of a newly married couple are painted in an art form which is able to showcase that all the gods and goddesses have come together to bless the newly married couple. Not just gods and goddesses, but everything which is auspicious has come together to bless the newly married couple. So these are the 5 basic broad categories of Madhubani painting that you should at least have heard of before. All right. We have broadly covered majority of the sections now. Just a bit of fine-tuning should be done. So I hope you have learned something in this time. And Rashi, we can take a short break now if you think it's okay.
Yes, definitely, ma'am. So I hope you all have enjoyed it till here and you liked even coloring the picture that you all were drawing, right? So our journey is not coming to end here only. We definitely have something really amazing, and I'll be discussing it to all of you about the master course that we are having with Bhamini ma'am only. So I need a quick feedback from all of you in the chat box. Was it helpful and easy for you to work along with ma'am here? A quick response from all of you in the chat box. Okay, so Kabi says it's beautiful about the history of Madhubani painting. Well, that's really great. Okay, so even Monica says this is amazing. Rupa Suresh ma'am says, Soumya says, okay, well, that's really nice to hear this from all of you. And that was the whole objective of, the workshop. Now coming to, as I told you, have something really amazing for you all. So we have planned up a master class here with us. And I'll be sharing the details about to all of you about it, right? So quickly, if